Imagine walking through a forest. At first there is no path, just grass, brush, open possibility. But if enough people walk the same route, something begins to happen. The grass bends, the ground compacts, a trail appears. The more the path is used, the easier it becomes to travel. The body learns in much the same way. The nervous system is constantly learning from repetition. Not only learning facts, not only learning skills, learning expectations, learning patterns, learning what tends to happen next, learning how reality appears to work. This process begins astonishingly early, long before we can explain ourselves, long before we understand psychology, long before we possess language sophisticated enough to describe what is happening. The organism is already gathering information, already building maps, already learning. What happens when I cry? What happens when I explore? What happens when I make noise? What happens when I make mistakes? What happens when I succeed? What happens when I fail? Again and again, the nervous system observes the results, and gradually, expectations emerge. Not necessarily conscious expectations, biological expectations. The body begins anticipating reality. This is one of the most remarkable qualities of the nervous system. It is not merely reacting to the world, it is constantly attempting to predict it. Prediction allows survival. Prediction allows efficiency. Prediction allows adaptation. Without prediction, every moment would feel completely unfamiliar. The organism would need to start from zero every time. Instead, the nervous system builds models, internal maps, working assumptions about how life tends to unfold. Most of the time, this process is incredibly useful. If a stove has burned you before, you learn caution. If practice improves a skill, you learn persistence. If kindness strengthens relationships, you learn cooperation. The body remembers, and the memory helps guide future behavior. This is intelligence. This is adaptation. The challenge arises when old expectations continue operating in environments that have changed. A child who grows up in unpredictability may become exceptionally observant. A child who experiences frequent criticism may become highly self-monitoring. A child who learns that approval depends upon performance may become extraordinarily driven. These adaptations often make sense. They are solutions, strategies, attempts by the organism to navigate reality successfully. The body is not making mistakes, the body is learning. The difficulty appears when yesterday's solutions become today's limitations, when old maps remain active long after the landscape has changed. Imagine carrying a map of one city into an entirely different city. The map may have been useful once, accurate once, protective once, but eventually reality begins asking for an update. The nervous system faces a similar challenge. The body remembers, yet life continues changing. New environments appear, new relationships appear, new possibilities appear, and sometimes the organism continues responding to conditions that no longer exist. Again, not because it is broken, because it learned well. The body takes learning seriously. This is one reason familiar situations often feel comfortable, even when they're not particularly beneficial. Familiarity itself can create a sense of predictability. The organism knows what to expect, and predictability often feels safer than uncertainty, even when uncertainty may contain growth, even when uncertainty may contain opportunity. The body prefers known terrain. This preference is not weakness, it is biology. The nervous system evolved to reduce unnecessary risk. Yet human development asks something fascinating of us. It asks us to remain adaptable, to update our maps, to refine our expectations, to continue learning, not merely as children, but throughout life. This is where awareness becomes so valuable, because awareness allows us to examine expectations that once operated automatically. We begin asking questions. Why do I expect this outcome? Where did this assumption come from? Is this expectation still serving me? Does this map still match the territory? Sometimes the answers are surprising. Sometimes we discover that a reaction we assumed as part of our personality was actually part of an old adaptation, a prediction, an expectation, a trail worn deeply through repeated experience. And perhaps for the first time, we notice that another path exists. This is not about blaming the past, nor is it about romanticizing it. The goal is understanding, because understanding creates options, and options create freedom. The body remembers, but remembering is not the same as being trapped. The nervous system carries history, yet it remains capable of learning, capable of updating, capable of adapting. The forest path may be well worn, but new paths can still be created, slowly, repeatedly, step by step. This is one of the great gifts of being human. We are shaped by experience, yet we are not limited to experience. We inherit patterns, yet we can participate in their evolution. The body remembers, and the body continues learning. Both are true. Both have always been true. And perhaps hope lives in that relationship, not in forgetting the past, but in recognizing that the future remains unwritten. Somalume. The body remembers where it has been, but it is still learning where it can go.